In this particular case study, the conflict was between actor Terrence Howard and Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics is an American publisher of comic books and related media, and the company behind the Iron Man franchise. For Iron Man Part 1, Marvel hired Terrence Howard to play a key role as the best friend of Iron Man. The first Iron Man was a success, so a sequel was made. Terrence Howard and Marvel had differing views on how much Howard should be paid for his support role in the second film, the sequel. Marvel wanted to pay Howard less for the second film than they paid him for the first. Howard felt he should be paid more since the first movie was a success. The two sides could not reach an agreement, and Howard was not in Iron Man 2 or 3. When it came time to negotiate Howard's pay for the second movie, he refused to go below the $4.5 million he made for his first role in Iron Man, and he insisted upon the $8 million that he got for the agreement that was made initially before the first film. So Marvel wanted to renegotiate Howard's pay. Marvel also argued that Howard's role would be smaller in the sequel, so the pay should reflect the smaller role, and they only wanted to offer him $1 million. Howard wanted to use what he made in the blockbuster, the first one, as a benchmark for what he makes in his films moving forward. So for that, taking any pay cut would not work into that interest. Marvel's true interest in the case was to replace Terrence Howard from the beginning. They cut the pay so drastically that they knew he would not accept the terms. There was chatter in the industry that the director of Iron Man 1 complained that Terrence Howard was difficult to work with. Also, Terrence Howard was the highest paid actor in the first movie. He was paid more than all of the other actors and actresses in Iron Man 1. And so, knowing that they would have to pay him more to meet the second standard, they would also have to pay the other actors and actresses more because the first one was such a blockbuster. So, getting Terrence Howard and his salary out of the picture will make the negotiations with the other actors go by much smoother. One of the negotiation techniques found in this case was the BATNA. Terrence Howard, his BATNA, was to use the success of Iron Man Part 1 and how much money he made for that role to use that as a catapult or springboard, if you will, for the rest of the roles in his career to charge at least that amount. While Marvel's BATNA in the case was to either pay Terrence Howard 1/8 pretty much of what they negotiated the first time around, or replace him with a new actor, which might have been the case of what they wanted to do as well. Again, there was chatter that Howard was difficult to work with on the set, and the director wasn't particularly pleased with his performance, so they felt justified in cutting his pay so drastically. Another technique that came present in this negotiation was negative emotions. It seems like everything was driven by negative emotions. Howard's approach to it was that them offering him much less money was a direct reflection on his acting ability and his caliber of where he has reached and worked so hard for in the industry, and so he refused to negotiate. Marvel's negative reaction towards that was, well, they weren't all the way pleased with his role in the first one, and they felt like his role in the second one would be diminished, and so they felt like that pay cut was necessary. The third technique that I did see here was dirty tricks. When Marvel approached Terrence Howard to talk to him about his pay cut, they talked a lot about, the second film it will be successful with or without you. And that seemed like a dirty trick, and trying to force him to, hey, take this $1 million or take nothing, because the film will be good with or without you, and it will be successful with or without you. And Terrence didn't react too well to that. He sort of shut down. And then he learned later via the internet, to his surprise, he says, that he was replaced with another actor. So not only did he did not play in part 2, he did not play in part 3. There was no contract agreement, and he was replaced with another actor. Um, This is a prime example of how things can go wrong when people are not negotiating principles and they're negotiating emotions and feelings and positions. And looking at the negotiation overall, one thing that seemed to go well is the fact that the people, the two parties involved had history. And so they could at least come to the negotiation table with some successful history amongst each other. But that's pretty much where it ends in terms of what went well. And, everything else went bad. There was a lot of negative emotion on both sides. There was a lot of lack of communication on both sides. There was no follow up after the initial negotiation. There were just decisions made. There was no consideration for the other's feelings or positions or, reasons as to why they felt the way they did as far as the negotiations went. And, again, Marvel replaced Terrence Howard. Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3 did very well. And Terrence Howard pretty much had to start over. At the time of this negotiation, he was making about $6 million per film. And after this negotiation fall through, after Iron Man 1, he went back to making $60,000 a film. So that's quite a drastic decrease. And he is just now starting to make his way back. And so this is what happened in the instance of Marvel and Terrence Howard in the Iron Man franchise. And there's a lot to be learned in all of the takings that went on in this negotiation. And all of the references to the information found in this presentation are found here. Thank you.